of the water treatment plant, and we will go ahead with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please note everyone is in attendance. We'll start with our consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the October 23rd meeting, approval of bills and claims. Under licenses and permits, we have a renewal of a Class C beer permit with Class B native wine permit and Sunday sales. Carroll County Store 1. Renewal of a Class C beer permit with Sunday sales at Carroll Country Store 2. New Class B permit with Class C native wine permit at Full Swing. And a new Class B native wine permit with Sunday sales at Carroll Design and Salvage. And I need a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Seaman?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Are there any oral requests and communications from the audience for items not on the agenda?
We should have,
Come forward.
I'm sorry.
You can talk up right up here in the microphone, sorry.
Sorry. We should have Sunday sales on there too. Does that matter, or it should be
For which one?
the Full Swing?
Native Class B beer permit with Class C native wine permit.
Okay, because we applied and it looked like the state had our Sunday sales also, because we applied and paid extra for Sunday sales.
We'll check it tomorrow.
Okay.
Check it tomorrow.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
And if council's okay with that,
Thank
then we'll
you.
just go ahead and approve it and make
Yeah.
sure it's noted in the minutes.
Okay.
If the application online says Sunday sales.
Okay.
Okay,
So
very
you need
good.
a motion.
Thank you.
Another motion then?
Thank
for
you.
that?
I'll just note
Okay.
it. I'll just note it in here.
Okay.
Okay, good.
If not anything else, we will move to the presentation of the Iowa Society of Solid Waste Operation, the operation chapter of SWANA. And Mary.
Hi, I'm Mary Woodtree from Carroll County Solid Waste. And we, the City of Carroll and Carroll County Solid Waste, joined together to construct a 4-inch leachate line from the Commission's lift station to the Industrial Park Road and to add sanitary sewer on Industrial Park Road. We started this process in early 2016. We worked through a joint public improvement agreement laying out the terms of the project, including how expenses would be split. We bid the project in spring of 2016 with 3 bids submitted. The project was awarded to King Construction for a total of $661,257.50. Construction started in July of 2016. To that project, there were 2 change orders for unsuitable soils and repairs for the road. So the total projects can end up being $730,201.56. We're looking to wrap up the project soon. I think we worked well together. We had our ups and downs some days, but we worked through it. And I'm proud of this project. Number one, if we go to the 99 counties in Iowa and the number of landfill facilities, we are one of only in the state of Iowa that has a gravity force main that goes into the wastewater treatment plant to the city. It was very innovative back in '94 and remains there today. So I'm really proud of that project, and so I decided it'd really be nice if we could get some recognition by the State Solid Waste Organization and also for the City of Carroll for working with us. So I submitted an award application for Outstanding Facility Award for the Leachate Force Main and Sewer Installation Project. We were awarded the award.
Thank you, Mary.
The award was accepted on behalf of the Commission and the City of Carroll at the annual fall conference held in Coralville in October. I feel like this project was a win-win project. The Commission has an updated leachate line and the city has a sanitary sewer line on Industrial Park Road. So thank you for your cooperation with this project, and we hope someday to work together again. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Mary.
Yep.
Appreciate the time. Okay.
Barry,
Picture. We'll
you
get a
can just
picture.
keep the award tonight and bring it tomorrow.
Okay, we'll get a picture here
Okay.
real quick, I think.
We'll put Randy in the middle, he looks nice.
There you go.
Mary, I see you had that made out of recycled glass.
What's that?
The award is made out of recycled glass,
It
it
is.
says. Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
They probably use some leachate water.
A little bit.
Washed everything.
Yeah.
Bring it forward.
Thank you.
That way I can drop it.
Pressure.
Did you finish?
No, I had it torn out of my hands.
That's right.
Let's see, we got ordinances, there are none. So we will move to resolutions. And the first item is the Library City Hall Project Phase 2 Environmental Site Assessment Proposal at 627 North Adams Street. And Randy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In May of 2016, there was an environmental site assessment conducted on 627 North Adams, the commercial savings bank site. It was performed for the city by Parker Lamar Engineering Consultants. I have attached for you the executive summary of that. The full site assessment is available if you'd like to review it. I have a paper copy here. It's good bedtime reading. But anyway, the recommendations of that phase 1 assessment were that there were some recognized environmental concerns, some possible hazardous substances, and the additional assessment was warranted. So we followed up with a request for a phase 2 environmental site assessment proposal from Barker Lamar Engineering Consultants. And in effect, it's detailed in the proposal that you have in front of you, but in general terms, it's basically the construction of 3 monitoring wells, from which soil samples and groundwater samples will be taken and analyzed. The compensation for the work included in the scope is proposed to be on a lump sum by cash basis at a total of $6,083. Barker Lamar intends to complete the work within 3 months. The phase 1 environmental site assessment also noted some asbestos-containing materials in that site at 627 North Adams, but this phase 2 does not address that. On further discussions with Barker Lamar, the more optimum time to address that is during the design work in the renovation, for the renovation. So that will be a part of a design work at a later date. So unless there are any questions, I'd recommend approval of the resolution accepting the Barker Lamar proposal for a site assessment at 627 North Adams.
So they'll drill the holes, take samples, and then they close those wells. They're not going to stay open for an extended period of time.
No, they're not.
They won't do continuous monitoring, just the one time.
They
Okay.
plan on one time.
Okay. Any other questions for Randy? If not, I will need a motion to approve the resolution accepting the proposal of Barker Lamar Engineering Consultants for a limited Phase 2 environmental site assessment at 627 North Adams Street.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Cox?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Our second resolution is the Biokinmetrics Holdings LLC, doing business, DMBA Properties and Consulting Incorporated, the annual tax increment finance appropriations for fiscal year 2019. And Laura.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you recall, just about a year ago, the city entered into an agreement with DMBA Properties for a tax rebate agreement. The developer was to construct a 17,000 square foot building, which has been done, and then the city would provide to him incremental property tax revenue generated from that increased value of by putting the building there, which we also call a tax grant. And this grant amount would not exceed $300,000. But also listed or mentioned in that agreement was what's called this annual tax appropriations clause, which basically said council needs to every year allocate or approve that the next year those tax increment financing revenue that's generated then would be paid back to the developer upon payment of his taxes. So before you tonight is a resolution that basically states just that the council is going to allocate those tax increment finance revenue that's generated, and then it would be paid back to the developer in fiscal year 19.
He's met all the requirements for this year?
Yes.
Correct, okay.
Yes.
Any other questions for Laura? If not, I'll need a approval of the resolution obligating funds from the Central Business District Urban Renewal Tax Revenue Fund for appropriation of the payment of the tax increment grant to Biokinetics Holdings LLC and DMBA Properties and Consulting for fiscal year 2019.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Base?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Our third resolution is the Fifth Amended and Restated Downtown Urban Renewal Internal Loan. And Laura.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the past several years, council has taken action to approve what we've been calling these internal loans. We are borrowing money from the water fund to do improvements in our downtown area, and then using the TIF, or tax increment financing revenue generated in the downtown urban renewal area to pay for those improvements. Last council meeting, council took action to enter into a engineer agreement for the next phase, or what we're calling Streetscape Phase 9. And that contract was $85,500. At this time, until plans are drawn up and we obviously go to bid, we're estimating the project to be somewhere around $900,000. So right now, we're anticipating Streetscape Phase 9 to be between construction and the engineering fees, probably at least $985,500. And in order for us to continue to collect TIF in this area, we need to generate a loan so that we have debt against the area. So this paperwork or this resolution before you would create that loan, and then we can file with the county auditor stating, yes, we still would like to collect the TIF in this downtown urban renewal area.
Who regulates that interest rate of 1%?
This was some guidance that I had received from our bonding attorneys to take a look at what interest rate you're getting on your funds that you have in the bank right now. So we're somewhere between 0.5% of what's in more of our checking account and our savings account to 1.5% of some CDs that we've got placed. So I picked kind of in the middle of a 1%.
Okay.
The loan is scheduled to be paid over 2 years
All right.
with a little bit of room in the second year to take on additional debt for another project.
We pretty much paid all the other ones back so far.
Yeah, if we did not enter into this loan, we actually would not be capturing the whole value in the downtown area this next
Right.
year because we've only got just a little bit left to pay on the current one outstanding. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Laura? If not, I'll need a motion to approve the Fifth Amended and Restated Downtown Urban Renewal Internal Loan.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Base?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Our fourth resolution is the Police Service Dog Team Policy. And Chief?
Thanks, Mayor. The Carroll Police Service Dog Team is currently in training and is expected to be done about the 22nd of November. We have a policy that's in place, but it was suspended about 10 years ago when we removed the dog from service at that time. Before they get back on the street, we'd like to get the policy reenacted with some minor changes to update it. Some of the changes are the way that they were to be contacted. We're just updating it, it was removing it, going through the comm centers, kind of pre-cell phone era. So we changed the way of contacting the handler to get the dog team out if needed. And the other change was to credit the officer for time that he's using during the day to care for the dog and maintain the kennels, things like that at his own residence. So if you read through the policy, it's under item 4, procedures, subsection E, and then section 2 of that, it talks about giving the officer 1 hour credit each shift for their time needed to take care of the animal while off duty 7 days a week. Since the dog is going to be living with the handler and under the responsibility of the handler 24 hours a day, it seems only fair to provide him with some type of compensation for that. And this allows him to work or to get 1 hour credit each day for that time. Otherwise, not much change, or no other changes were made to this policy. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'll give you the best answer I can.
So like if he is scheduled like for an off time, but doesn't go anywhere, he's still working, but he's at home, he's not during a shift, he can be called in for a search if needed.
He could be, and
Okay.
the policy gives discretion to the sergeant on duty as well as the handler. We do something similar with our drug enforcement officer for impaired driving other than alcohol. And same thing, we call them, we brief them on the situation, and we let them make the final determination since they're the ones who know what's needed to be done. So we'll do the same with the handler. We'll let them make the final determination if they believe it's a good reason to come out or if it's something that won't benefit by having the dog at all. So we'll make that determination through the officer. But he would be called in to return to duty when he's off, if available. Of course, if he's on vacation and things, we're not going to mandate that he comes back to work or something like that.
So if the handler's gone or on vacation, the dog will be kenneled but not being used?
Correct.
Okay.
Mike, did you have a chance to address the question I brought up to you the other day about basically incurring a contractual obligation to the city?
I chatted with the chief a little bit today about that. Do you want to update him on?
Yes. I spoke with the officer, and this was brought up before we kind of got this far in the situation, and he's interested in signing it. Actually, he brought it to my attention before I went to him. He said, if there are any concerns, I'll sign a contract saying I'm going to stay X amount of years. So we're in that process. I haven't seen Justin for 4 weeks now that he's been at training. So he's gone all week, and then he's back on the weekends very little. So once he gets back, that first day we'll have one written up and ready to go for him.
What I had asked for is a new officer, when they come on anchor, what, a 3-year obligation to the city?
And we discussed this, Mike, too. We'll probably do the same length for this. The cost is pretty similar to an academy cost, so it only seems fair that a 3-year would be a good contractual date for him.
Yeah, so that's what I'd asked for, is because we're putting the money into the training, that the officer would incur an obligation to us that if he were to leave within that 3 years, he would be responsible for paying back a portion of that training. Thank you.
And we have guidelines that if he should leave to get another handler, someone else can be qualified to go for the training.
They can. The dog belongs to us and not the handler. So
Not the handler,
if he
okay.
was to leave, the dog would stay in our possession, and we would have to go in and train another officer. Of course, there'd be a cost incurred with that, but we could train another officer and get the dog passed on to them.
Okay.
Brad, what is the cost?
The
of
dog
training?
was, I don't recall exactly without looking at the invoice. The dog was around $7,600, and the training was almost the same.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Our total bill was $13,800, somewhere in that area, and then we bought a couple extra options too. So it's quite a big
I
expense.
couldn't remember.
I think it was
yeah.
close to like 15 by the time it was all together.
Yeah, we did 14.6, somewhere in that area.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, this was all paid for through donations
for
from the
donations,
Right.
so, yeah.
We have a vehicle ready for this?
It is currently getting equipped right now. It's out of Reedsburg Audio. They said they have it done in about a week to a week and a half, 2 weeks at the most. So it'll be done probably the day he gets back. We have it ready to go for him, so.
Any other questions for the chief? If not, I'll need a motion to approve the reenacting of the police service dog team policy for the Carroll Police Department.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Cox?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Base? Yes. Motion is approved.
Thank you. Our fifth resolution is contract for professional services, west side entrance improvements to the Carroll Rec Center. And Jack, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is part of a project that Randy had mentioned with you previously about going through the city buildings, making them ADA compliant. And this was the number one, the top location, most people going in and out of the buildings. So we did get a proposal from FEH to proceed with this. They will provide a schematic drawing showing where the location is. When we get to that point, there will be some decisions that need to be made, most likely right now, and we'll show it later. The entrance for the ADA compliance is going to be a little bit further south than the existing walkway now. If we want to use the existing walkway, it would require steps and an edge on the wet north side of the entryway up there. And Randy and I both are not big fans of steps, especially in that area. So the entrance is probably going to have to be further to the south. And I'll show you all that once we get going. But this really is just allowing us to work with FEH to work on that and make that ADA compliant. And the one other thing is the inside door on the west side will need to be pushed a little bit further east. So there's a little bit larger gap between the two doors to make that ADA compliant. So part of Randy's program will pay for that, and we'll have to find some funding for the inside part for the rec center. So we'll find out those costs and that when we get down the road a little bit further.
How long, by the time, if this is approved, how long before we get that back, Jack?
I
It'll
would
take 2 or 3 months?
Yeah, for drawings and depending on weather and that, if we might
Okay.
end up being a early spring project.
So this would be something we do in the spring then?
Yeah, but we'll have a design done. You'll see that. You'll know exactly what we're doing.
Okay.
Jack, have you had many people ask about adjustments so it is more ADA? I know I've had
On
a
the
few
west side?
people over the years
Yeah.
say, could we do,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right now,
sometimes.
for the most part, the ones that really need assistance go on the east side
Okay,
and come in there because it's flat.
but this will still be west facing, just to the south.
Yes, further
Okay.
south to get the correct 1-to-1 ratio that we need to
Okay.
get them up to the
No,
doors.
it's a good idea.
Jack, it says here that we requested FEH provide site observation. Is that something you foresee a lot of, or?
No. One, I believe they'll come up for one. This is a pretty easy, I don't say real easy, but project that we can manage through staffing.
Okay, great.
Randy's help. Anything else you want to add, Randy? No. Okay.
Any other questions for Jack? If not, I'll need a motion to approve the letter of agreement with FEH Design for the ADA West Side entrance at the Carroll Rec Center for a total of $5,680.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Seaman?
Yes.
Base? Yes. Fleshner?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Jack. Our first report this evening is the Grant Road resurfacing, and Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Early last spring, I was contacted by the Carroll County Engineer's Office that they were preparing an asphalt overlay project for a portion of Mahogany Avenue from 210th Street to 220th Street. A portion of that is within the corporate limits, and actually it's Grant Road from 210th Street, which is Pleasant Ridge, to south of Brookdale Drive, McFarland Clinic. That portion, the west side of the road, is within the corporate limits. And our discussion at the time was that the city should probably be responsible for the cost of the overlay within the corporate limits, and that those costs could be determined once final quantities were established for it. We have recently received an invoice from the Carroll County Engineers Office in the amount of $49,612.12, which represents that proportionate share of their 1 mile overlay project. It's approximately 20% of the total project cost. I think this is probably a good project to conduct jointly. It's a heavily traveled route by both city residents, county residents, and visitors to Swan Lake Park. The concern, obviously, is that it wasn't proposed in time for you to consider it for budgeting, so this is an unbudgeted expense. But in any case, we're recommending that the county be paid for that resurfacing. So unless there are any questions, that's a recommendation to pay the bill, I guess.
I just have one, and I think I understand this. We're only paying for half of that road, correct? The road on the Carroll
Yes.
side.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
the
Actually,
side,
over
yeah.
the whole project, that half, that's a quarter mile long or so,
Mhm.
is about 20% of the
Yeah.
total cost. But you're right, yes.
Because they repaved all the way out to,
Swan Lake. Point.
yeah,
Yeah,
200,
yeah.
210, 220.
Yeah. It was a good project. They widened it a little bit and makes a nice ride, a nice road. The former road had 11-foot lanes on it, and some of the traffic, today's traffic is a little bit wider than that, so it had
Plus the
started
people,
tearing up.
there's a fair number of people that run there,
Sure.
Oh, yeah,
so,
yeah, and bike.
yeah.
I hope maybe that will take off some of the traffic, so they're not going down Pleasant Ridge, the truck traffic. There was a lot of semi-trailers going down Pleasant Ridge to get to 71.
Yeah.
And that road's not designed to handle that constant pounding. Hopefully they go out now on this road. I've seen more going that way, so it does take, hopefully it'll take the pressure off of our city street,
Yeah, it does get pretty heavy through there.
Because initially there were some complaints.
We have had periodic
Yeah.
complaints about that South Carroll bypass.
South Carolina.
It's the
The
rendering
Venture
works
Road.
road.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there any other questions for Randy?
You're okay with the 49,000 out of the budget?
Where are we carving it out of?
Road use tax,
tax.
correct?
Yeah, road
Yes,
use
that's
tax,
the
and that's,
recommendation.
It's in the
Right here.
motion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do we have some left over in the road use tax to pay for other things yet?
Yes,
For now?
there is.
There's ample,
carried.
okay. If there are no other questions for Randy, I'll need a motion to approve the payment of the invoice from Carroll County for Grant Road resurfacing in the amount of $49,612.12 from the Road Use Tax Fund.
So moved?
Second,
There's a motion and a second. Fleshner?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Seaman?
yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Bates? Yes. Motion is approved.
Thank you. Our second report is the 3rd Street HMA resurfacing, change order number 1. And Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the construction of the 3rd Street resurfacing project, there were some contract quantities that exceeded the planned quantity. There were a few quantities that totaled less than the planned quantity, and then there was necessary to add a couple of items to the plans during construction. This is a federal aid project, so at the end of the project, it's required to balance the contract with the quantities. It's kind of backwards, but that's the requirement under federal aid. But I've listed the items that show a change in the change order, summarized them in the memorandum. The net change was $10,998.56, which brings the total contract price to $788,870.73. The final contract, well, this is a unit price contract, obviously, and the final contract cost will be determined following audit of the quantities that were constructed. So the DOT does perform an audit of quantities on federal aid projects. So unless there are any questions, I'd recommend approval of the change order in the amount of $10,998.56.
In this project, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The liquidated damages, that was for them going over contract time?
Yes. Mhm.
This project's pretty well complete now at this point, isn't it?
Yes, it is. There is seeding to be done, and that will be carried over to spring.
Okay.
And that's currently the only undone item.
That's a nice riding road now. Really nice. And all the sewer work's done and all that. The trail part's completed.
There's a real high bank, like close to Walnut Street. How are you gonna get that from, on the south side of the sidewalk?
Yes. Actually, we have addressed 3 different areas. One right at the intersection of 3rd and Walnut on both south side quadrants, and we've graded those down.
Right.
The pedestrian curb ramps, we constructed them to maximum slope, but it still just buried them. And so that's all been excavated. Now, as you move back to the west towards Maple, there's a half a block of sidewalk that has a steep bank.
Right.
And we did grade that down a little bit. We worked with the property owner to get it to where they were comfortable with it. It's not as steep as it was before the sidewalk was constructed, but it's still steep. But the property owner is fairly satisfied with it. And it got too late to seed any of those graded areas. So that slope that's linear, not at the intersections, we plan on sodding next spring, for the property owner. But the whole sidewalk had to be replaced for that half block because it didn't meet ADA requirements. And that's what resulted in some additional earthwork there, dirt work.
What are your plans for keeping tabs on the seeding and that process as it continues on next spring, Randy? I've had a lot of people concerned about seeding and fill dirt and the like.
So it doesn't turn into High Ridge, basically?
Yeah, sure. Well, the areas that we just talked about at Walnut and Maple, and between the 2 intersections, we're going to do that with city personnel. There was a little problem with working on that slope because it's on private property in a federal aid contract. So we did it with our personnel, and we will follow up on that seeding with our personnel, seeding and sodding.
I've seen some very good work by our personnel going out and helping and doing some things. So thank you to you and the group there, because they did do a very nice job on some spots already.
They are conscientious. They just are. But the others, there is some in the contract, seeding, and we will continue to monitor that in the contract next year.
As Mike pointed out, we just don't want another High Ridge situation, so pretty please take good care of them.
Right.
Thank you.
Trying to, yes.
I know you will.
Any other questions for Randy? If not, I will need a motion to approve the change order number 1 to the 3rd Street HMA resurfacing project in the amount of $10,998.56.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Cots?
Yes.
Bates? Yes. Fleischner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Jerks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Our third report is the fiscal year 2017 State Annual Financial Report. And Laura, when you're ready.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Attached to your memorandum is the fiscal year 17 State Annual Financial Report, which summarizes all the financial transactions, revenue, and expenses that occurred during our fiscal year 2017. This is required to be the front page to be published in the newspaper and then submitted to the state before December 1st. I have reviewed it, and I have reviewed it with a draft copy of our audit report, and the numbers do match, which is a good thing. So tonight before you, I'm just asking council to accept this and authorize the publication.
Any questions for Laura? If not, I'll need a
No,
motion to.
I'm not real
Oh,
sure on a lot of
sorry.
the TIF stuff, so not to take the time here. I'd like to have some training done, because I don't understand why some of them are 0 for the year. And some, have value money on it to them.
Oh, you're, I think, looking at the other report.
That's the next one.
The
Oh, all
next
right.
item.
Okay,
But yes, we can address that.
all right.
In the state
That is
annual
it.
financial report, there is a specific column for TIF that shows what TIF revenue we brought in, but it's all summarized and all together from all of our areas. For the next report, we'll break it out a little bit more.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions on the state annual financial report? If not, I'll need a motion to authorize the publication of the state annual financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Seaman?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. And then our fourth and final report is the fiscal year 2017 annual urban renewal report. And Laura.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A number of years ago, a new state law went into effect stating that we needed to provide more information, detailed information about what's going on in our TIF areas. All cities are required to do this. And this is the report that was created by the state, and we just fill in the numbers. So we'll walk through one to give you a little bit more background information about what's happening. So this includes all of our TIF areas, or excuse me, all of our urban renewal areas, even the ones that are considered in place or active, but not actively collecting any TIF dollars out of them. So that might be why you're seeing some that have a bunch of zeros. Technically, they're still there, they still exist, the time frame hasn't run out on them, but we're not actively collecting any TIF out of them. 'Cause we
And that's what
probably-
I don't understand, why sometimes you do and sometimes you don't.
Depends on if you're trying to pay for some public improvement that had gone on in that area. So the ones where there's zeros, the public improvements have been paid for and we're done.
Oh,
Unless another public improvement comes along that we would like to use TIF money to pay for that,
before the
before the time frame runs out.
statutory ends is up.
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Yep.
that makes sense now.
So our most active area, we have two areas that are actively collecting, and our most active area is our downtown area. We've got the most value that we're capturing to be able to generate the TIF dollars, and we're paying off debt. Well, the other one, we're paying off debt as well. But if you look, it would be actually on page 2, well, okay, the first page of the report is a summary of all the other pages. It shows that at the beginning of the year, we had $60,645 in our TIF funds, all of our TIF funds. We collected revenue, we had some expenses, and then at the end of the year, we're actually negative $21,917, which we plan to correct in this fiscal year 17, excuse me, 18, fiscal 18.
Does that happen every year?
Not necessarily. This one, it relates to our downtown area and our internal loans that we have outstanding. And when I structured the debt for one, maybe a couple years, or actually a couple years, or a couple debts together, the interest, principal and interest payments are greater than what the revenue that was collected. I was anticipating more revenue to come in. I think that had, a lot of it maybe had to do with the rollback that went into effect with the commercial and industrial rollback, going back to 90%. Plus now we have the multi-residential properties that are being rolled back even further. And at that time when I structured those, I didn't have that figured in there, or maybe didn't even know for sure how
We
much it
didn't
was
know
going
that
to
was coming
impact
in.
it.
Oh, wow.
And now we're seeing some of the effects. So going forward in the debt that I'm structuring now, I'm trying to make sure I anticipate that we're not going to receive maybe as much as what we were getting in the current year. So, but yeah, I'm planning on getting that corrected in our fiscal 18 budget. Then the next page starts in with all the detail of the area. So our first one is our, what we call the Carroll City Urban Renewal Area. That is our downtown area. And the first page is a summary of what happened in that area by looking at what the assessed values were, what your taxable value was. And it also shows that in our taxing district, we actually have this area That's been amended a few times. We had a core area, then we added on another area, then we added on another area, and we added on another area. So we've amended this like 5 times. And this shows, well, the 4 areas that are currently active right now. We'll have another one that'll come on next year. So that's that area. And then it breaks it down even further by what projects did you do in that area. So I've listed those out. Right now, we're still active with the Highway 30 and Grant Road intersection improvements, Streetscape Phase 7 and 8. Phase 7, we finished up with payments and actual completion of it during fiscal 17, so that's why you still see it listed here, and then it'll come off into next year's report. And then the next page is taking a look at what debt do you have outstanding. So we had the water fund, what I'm calling the water fund loan 7, 8, and 9 that you're seeing listed here. And then the next page then links what debt did you issue to pay for what projects. And then the next 2 pages after that, it looks like, it breaks down each of those. We have the whole big area is called the urban renewal area. Then within that, you have taxing districts. Your taxing districts can be the whole area, or they can be smaller areas. In our case, they're actually the whole area, but since we amended this, there's different taxing district areas. So that's why you're seeing a few different listed areas here. And each one of them have their own base value and then incremental value. Where improvements went on, the value went up from this base value. And so that incremental value, what taxes is generated off of that incremental value, is the money that we're using to pay for the improvements in the area.
Who determines the sunset date?
State code. A couple of these areas in this downtown urban renewal area do not have a sunset date. They were enacted before the law changed, but the newer ones have a 20-year limit. So the downtown is our most active. That's the area that's the most going on. The next page after that, we get into zeros. They technically still have life left in them, but we're not actively collecting any tip dollars out of them. So that's why you're showing zeros. But we still need to show them as still being something that's there as an urban renewal area. Unless council specifically takes action to say, yep, they're done, we're done with them, they'll still show on this report, or the time runs out, they'll still stay on this report.
So what would generate that particular area to start collecting TIF again?
We would have to create some type of a debt, or do some type of public improvement. And then we would certify to the county auditor that says, hey, we did something in this area that we want to use that incremental value to pay for these
Okay.
public improvements. But that's all triggered by certifying to the county auditor each year.
Makes sense now.
And then the rest of the report goes through each of the areas that we currently have. Does anybody have any other questions? And they're all summarized. This needs to be, requires council approval and then submitted to the state before December 1st.
We kind of go over that again when we do the budget too. We look at these same things again, in case there's some projects.
Well, I was just puzzled by all the zeros were there when it was
Sure.
going on.
Yep.
I move that we approve the attached fiscal year 2017 annual urban renewal report.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Base? Yes. Motion is approved.
Thank you. I trust everyone has read the committee reports. I want to thank the council for coming out and looking at the water treatment plant. And I think the vision that we had years ago when we started this seemed like forever, but I'm glad everybody was on board. It was a great project, I think, for the community at the end of the day, and I'm glad we were all able to get there and see that it got finished. Thank you again. Are there any comments from the council? If not, I will need a motion to move into the closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 20.173, union negotiation.
Is it legal to go into closed session?
Council is so authorized, yes.
So moved.
Second.